we're gonna be sitting today and just having a conversation rather than walking around like we normally do. Last week we left off with um, a reading from Deep Rooted Wisdom. It was a reading about the history of the soil erosion problem in the South, and I had just a brief, like 3 paragraph history of that problem. But I pulled this out because this is one of my favorite history books of the state, and
Show who that. What,
Super
what you held up.
cool.
You put your.
oh, I'm going to show you. This is Walter Edgar, who's from Columbia, right, from USC. He has radio shows on NPR. This is an awesome history, and I told you that almost all of South Carolina and throughout North Carolina into most of the South was virtually eroded away. And so what we're working with now is the remnants of the soil catastrophe that our forefathers caused. And I have a picture that I'm going to hold up to the camera. Tom, can you tell me, is that like pretty good? Just to give you an idea, so when you're working with your heavy red clay, I want you to remember that is not your soil, that is your subsoil that's left over after this incredible erosion problem. When you're walking through woods and you see these little gullies, those aren't natural gullies, those are erosion issues that happen after we cut down the trees, after we ruin the soil, and after we walked away and left it. So we did some amazing things. We planted kudzu everywhere, and kudzu kind of saved us. So, you know, today people make fun of kudzu, and they're like, we have to get rid of that stuff. But I equate kudzu to like the really fun drunk guy that you invite to your party, because you know he's going to like put the lampshade on his head and make the party really fun. But by about an hour in, you're ready to kick him out.
That's a good time to introduce Joe.
Well, all right, let's do that. Let's introduce our guests because they are, the topic of today is how we're going to talk about how they're using pigs and permaculture farming to renovate the soil on their farm in Jackson, South Carolina.
That's right.
So,
My name's Alyssa, and this is Chase, my fiance. We're getting married soon, and we have been working together using multi-species on our farm so that we can increase fertility on our soil. I was farming in right outside of Atlanta for several years, and I really learned in Atlanta how detrimental the cotton industry was into the rural farmland out there. And you can see such a huge difference between the soil that was in the fields that were intensely cotton farmed and the soil that was never really intensely farmed. It was more of like the homestead area. Such a huge difference. And the farm that we are at currently, that I farm with Chase, right down the street from here, it had consistent soybean crops, soybean, corn alternating for year after year after year. And you know, you can do that. They're able to do that effectively in the Midwest, and unfortunately the topsoil is getting scraped off year after year, but their soil is so good in the Midwest that nobody even acknowledges that. Here in the South, you can't just do a year of nitrogen fixing soybeans and a year of corn and expect to get the same results as you would have in Ohio. There's just not the cotton farming that that happened down here 100 years ago or 150 years ago even, and what's still going on now has like totally ruined the soil. So you can't nitrogen fix soil that isn't there. That's basically what I've learned. So we have decided to use pigs in order to grow vegetables. So we have this big old milking barn from an old, our farm used to be a dairy farm, and we have a long barn that's open air. There's no walls or anything. It's just covered where they used to let the cows hang out. And there's a gray water system that flows down through it. And what we've done is built paddocks inside this long barn. How big do you
It's
think?
130 feet long
Yeah.
by 35 feet wide.
So we're really lucky to have such a huge structure. It's 35 feet wide, 150 feet long, and we are able to harness the energy of the pigs at certain times of the year, during farrowing, like when the pigs have babies, or during breeding season, or when the little piglets have, they need to be weaned from their mothers or whatnot. And we collect all of the manure, not all of it, but a lot of it, a ton of manure from the local horse farms in Aiken. There's tons of them. They scoop it all, they put it in a giant pile, and they don't have time to do the composting necessary in order to be able to harness that energy. And they don't really care. They just want the manure to go away. So we have a verbal contract with the waste guys, and they unload all of that horse manure onto our property, and we use the tractor. We have a big Kubota tractor, and we load up the bucket and basically put it in as bedding for the pigs. And what the pigs do is they break down all of that bedding and manure. It's basically free inputs of carbon that we use on our farm, and they break it down. They eat some of the bits of hay, they eat the little bits of corn that are left over that the horses poop out, and the benefit for us is that it's a long-term way to harness energy. So we scoop all of that out. When it gets real fine and sifty, beautiful compost, it looks like something that would be $20 a bag at a garden store. And we have literally tons of it. Tons upon tons upon tons.
We have hundreds of yards.
Yeah, hundreds of yards of
What
it.
does hundreds of yards mean? For somebody that doesn't, how many yards go in a normal pickup truck?
So the largest dumpster that you see at a job site is typically 30 or 40 yards. So we get that delivered almost per week, or every 2 weeks. We get about 40 yards delivered per week, and then we also add large round bales from the local hay farmers, and we roll that out in our barn as well to add extra carbon into it.
You need to add green matter. If anybody has composted, you want to have some green matter get added. And because we have a pretty large, it's larger than a backyard garden. It's not huge. It's not like a 2-acre garden
It's
or
like
anything.
3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, it's 3/4 of an acre, and we grow a lot of vegetables. And because we're in the South and the soil is not perfect, we have a ton of weeds. So when we pull out all the weeds, we feed those to the hogs as well, so they have some biodiversity and forage while they're penned up. Because the majority of our pigs, right now we have 150 pigs, we have about 20 to 30 at a time that are in the barn. We're harnessing their poop and
We've
their
had 100 in
stomping
there.
power. But for the most part, year after year, we have no more than 30 at a time in the barn, except for mass sorting groups that we do. So what we do is,
And the chickens are in there
yeah,
too.
we
That's
have
important.
a flock of chickens that scrape through the barn too. They eat any maggots and fly larvae that might occur.
They're our cleanup crew.
They're our cleanup crew. We also have free-range ducks, and then the majority of our pigs are out free-ranging as well. They're getting rotationally grazed. They help uproot invasive species of grasses that are in our fields. not necessarily. We don't really put the pigs out into the hay fields because they dig holes and it can cause a lot of problems
For our cattle and the
for
sheep.
the cows and the sheep. But we have about 80 acres of fenced in woods, and we set up little paddocks for the pigs to help them rotationally graze through the woods, and we're essentially turning the wooded area into future grazing area for the cows.
But you're using the pigs in that case in a compartmentalized area to basically clear the land.
Yeah.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so what that system is called in agriculture is Silvopasture. So if you want to look it up, it's called Silvopasture. And what it is, what the definition of Silvopasture, if you kind of take it out of context, is using marginal lands on your farm to allow you to make profit on. So a lot of people have these wooded areas on their farm, or they have hedgerows and strips that kind of like surround the perimeter of your farm, and we're really interested in using those marginal spaces on the farm to make money off of and just to utilize in general. So we use the pigs as like disturbance mechanisms in the forest ecosystem that we have. So like right now we're about to rotate all of our pigs back, and we've been holding them up in a paddock so all the trees can drop their hickory nuts, and then we move all of the pigs into the hickory nut groves and we section them out in rotationally grazed paddock systems. So like over the course of the fall and winter they're eating all of the acorns and the hickory nuts and whatnot, and then we have the chickens scratching. So after all the pigs like move through every, let's say like 3 acres or so, we'll get the tractor and we'll fill it up with like peas and ryegrass, and then we can drive through the woods and we'll disperse grasses to, like, if we have any bare soil, because our goal at the farm is to never have bare soil. And that's the number one rule when it comes to erosion prevention, and that goes for wind erosion, water erosion, everything. I mean, we used to have 18 inches of topsoil almost everywhere in the continental United States, and due to agriculture, we don't have that. So our goal is to never have bare soil, and in the garden, we always have mulch down, or we do minimal tillage. So like if there's a big rain event, we never see like giant rain gullies. We don't have that on our farm, and the pigs help us with that in the woods. But it's really nice to work with pigs in a wooded system other than on a big field scale, because the tree roots and all the shrub layers, they actually hold and bind all the topsoil into the ground. So we're not actively losing that. If we were to like be disturbing a field with pigs, there isn't going to be any grass left, and then there will be erosion due to that. So we would have to take like measures to prevent that, like rotating the pigs faster or seeding after the pigs go into that paddock. So us using this marginal space in the wooded agro ecosystem allows us to utilize, once again, the nut trees, the shrub layers, as well as preventing the erosion in our pastures by using the woods.
Hey, can I ask a couple questions that
Of
people
course.
are asking?
Yeah.
So when your pigs are out in the woods, in the fields, they're eating nuts and the peas that and all of that is organic, because you're not. When you bring them back up into the building and you bring in that hay from farms,
Sure.
are you worried that you might be bringing in any pesticides, and does that composting process take care of any of those?
So, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so that was a concern of mine, and I was concerned about all of the stuff that horse people give to their horses, and
Like antibiotics?
totally. And there's a I can't remember what the exact phrase is, but in Bill Mollison's permaculture book, he does talk about you have to make compromises with the organic ideal in order to get the system where it needs to be. And for us, it is cost prohibitive, for example, for us to buy pure organic grain. It's not, we're not in a region where we're even accessible for us. So we've compromised by getting freshly milled, non-GMO grain from small farmers that we know and trust. Their grain is really clean. It's all freshly milled for us.
Well, can I answer Jenks's question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go
So
ahead. I was getting to that.
you were sorry. So we are really concerned about the pesticides and the herbicide, all the biocides that are associated with like the hay production, but right now, like, we cannot be concerned about that because we simply just don't have any carbon in our soil. We have pure sand as our topsoil, and the only way, like, we can essentially increase, like, the ecological succession is for us to be able to inject as much carbon and mulch as much as we possibly can right now with the compost we have, and the only resource we have is the compost from the horse farms and the hay that's locally done. But for us to like move to another level would cost us like anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 of investment for us to have our own wood chipper machine, which we do need to have, and our own hay production equipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can tell you, we use a real similar system. You know, we roll out big bale hay across our entire field.
Mm-hmm.
There are hay production chemicals that can go through the animal and through a composting process and still kill plants in your garden, and you should be aware of that. But when we started looking and asking, and I grew up with some of the hay farmers here, those chemicals are very expensive and
Yeah.
very rare. So most hay farmers are not using those herbicides that can go through that process.
I'm just curious of what you learned. Like, I would think that the majority of hay farmers that are using those might be like alfalfa farmers, or like have very high value hay.
Have very high value hay.
You know,
Right.
like it's like $40 a bale type of hay.
So
But like the farmers around here, I would assume are not investing in those expensive chemicals.
most of the
I think
farmers
they
around
are.
here, because it's cost prohibitive to them, and we don't have these incredibly serious weed issues that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
So we buy our hay. We buy old hay from farmers once they can't sell it for animals
Yeah.
anymore.
Like if we get the bales that are so old, the chemical's been neutralized, and then on top of that, it goes into the composter for like into the composting barn for like at least 4 months, and then we take it out, and all of our compost is a year old. So like I have all of these piles that are dispersed throughout the farm that are like really like the compost I'm using currently was made like last October. So it's been composting for an entire year, but I will say, like, if you guys are doing home scale composting, which everybody needs to be utilizing the food that they have in their kitchen, and then all the food scraps need to go into your compost and not into the garbage, you're not going to be able to get your piles to like the level of microbial diversity and heat that we have. So the way that we do it is like at the industrial scale. Like you have to have like a certain biomass, like an actual large mass, to be able to heat up the pile to kill the weed seeds that are in the hay, or maybe some of like the antibiotics and stuff like that we have. Like
We don't use antibiotics like as a preventative measure like a lot of farms, but there's occasionally, we have to treat an animal for something. We have a lot of animals.
we had that mama sow that almost lost all her pigs.
Yeah.
Let's jump forward a
Yeah,
little
sorry.
bit. So, all right, so
We-
you do
we-
all of
we
that.
can do
You
that. We
told
can
us
talk
about
about
your
this all
beautiful
day.
pigs and your chickens and your vegetables, but then what do you do with it?
Well, we have a CSA right now, and we
What does that mean?
Yeah,
A-
what does that
a
mean, and what's the
CSA
name of your company?
our farm is called Woodland Valley Farms, and our website is woodlandvalleyfarms.com. You can check it out.
Instagram, what's our Instagram?
And it's posted, their website link is posted in the comments.
Yeah.
If you look for Carol Horsley, she posted a link to their site.
Totally. Yeah, and if you want to email us, it's woodlandvalleysc@gmail.com if you're interested in purchasing pork. Right now, we have a lot of customers who buy our lamb, our grass-fed beef, and our chicken and eggs and all of that stuff. Like, all of that's basically pre-sold through our community-supported agriculture, which is what CSA stands for. And it's kind of like, I would compare it to like a subscription service almost, where like people are benefiting from all of the produce that we have, and they're committed to buying from us every week. Even if they really don't like sweet peppers that much, they're gonna get sweet peppers. And so what we do is we harvest a certain amount of vegetables, we harvest eggs, and we harvest chicken, grass-fed beef, lamb, and pork, and everyone who participates in the CSA gets a giant variety of food every single week.
And you deliver that to their house,
Yeah.
or you have a pickup spot in Aiken, Augusta?
We will eventually get to the point where we have pickup spots, but right now we're delivering. Right now we're under 50 CSA members, so we're able to separate it throughout certain days of the week and do deliveries.
And you do delivery to Columbia?
Yeah.
Right?
It's a $75 minimum purchase.
Yeah.
To Columbia.
Yeah.
All of our delivery locations are $75 minimum.
There's
And
people
in that box, you get some meat.
meat. Yeah, we get about $45 worth of meat. You get a dozen eggs. You get about $20 to $22 worth of produce. And then mushrooms too that our
Tell
friends.
us about your mushrooms. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
go
I
ahead.
love mushrooms,
Okay,
but at the
so-
grocery store, all I can get are the little white ornaments.
Exactly.
We have a kind of like a co-op model at our farm, and some of our friends have their own business on our farm, and we include their product in our CSA program. So we have two climate-controlled mushroom growing containers where we grow lion's mane mushrooms, which is really good for neurological health, and it's delicious. And a quick history on that: the Chinese emperors used to kill peasants for eating it off of oak trees. Shiitake mushrooms and oyster mushrooms. So we include that as well in our share,
Yeah, depending on what's available. And
and lots of herbs too.
yeah, we grow herbs, vegetables. In the wintertime, this time of year, we're super excited about the garden because in the cooler temperatures, we're able to kind of, it's not that cold here in the south, so we can continue growing all winter, which a lot of farmers don't realize. You know, you don't have to shut down all winter. We grow food year round on our farm. The only time we really take breaks is
August, September-ish.
yeah, around August and September, the vegetable garden starts to be in transition mode, transitioning out of summer into fall. So we have to kind of take some breaks there. But for the most part, we're year-round. And our customers have become really good friends of ours. Like, we're getting married, and half the people are going to be at our wedding are our CSA customers. Like, they're diehard, they're so supportive. And that's really what we're looking for in our customers, is people who understand that, like, nothing's perfect, but we are always trying to improve and do the best we can with our farm and continue to grow delicious, nutritious food.
I think anything that's perfect is a little bit of a myth,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
If you see something perfect in the grocery store, you're not seeing all the problems.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So y'all, we're gonna wrap up.
Hey, first, where are y'all getting married?
We're here. We're getting married here.
Lounge.
We're so
And
excited about it.
What else? You're on You're both on
We're
Instagram.
on Instagram, Woodland Valley Farms on Instagram,
And then I have my own Instagram called Farmer Lissy.
and it's way cooler.
No, it's not cooler.
It
It's
is.
just I am a girl, so I take more time and things.
But one message for everybody today: the most important thing in farming today is making sure that you're buying A, organic produce, B, go out and get grass-fed beef, grass-fed lamb, grass-fed goat, because those people never disturb the soil. Those are farmers who don't destroy the soil. They're building topsoil if they have good grazing practices.
And storing carbon.
It's super important to support those farmers today, and we just happen to be one of them. And the more support and money that we get directly impacts the environment. And we're not going and buying Lamborghinis or whatever. We're just buying more cows and building more topsoil. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
what we're about.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. We're really happy to share our farm and to be able to share our community too.